Welcome to the best of the Chris Vernon Show, presented by Direct Auto Insurance from the American Home Shield Studio inside FedEx Forum. To watch the live show daily at noon or on demand, head over to grindcitymedia.com or Grind City Media on YouTube. Now, let's take a look back at some of the best moments of the week.
Ryan Silverfield came bearing gifts. Look at that. John Roser, the Cologne Ranger, he is here. Go on, sit down, man. You're good to go. By the way, Roser, we're gonna have to get some camouflage or something to be able to sneak out to that golf tournament to be able to watch it.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know if any of the sponsored decks are gonna have people there or not. Like that, I see the golf tournament last week, and it's got some. Look at this Nike hat. Oh, we got the Cotton Bowl. Oh, look at this guy. Thank you, Coach Silverfield. Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah, you doing all right?
Yeah, I guess you're doing good. Hell, I see good news every single time I pull up Twitter.
It's been good. It's been fun. Got a lot to sell, and it's exciting times right now. So.
All right, so here we go. We're starting at the beginning with Ryan Silverfield. Here, let me get close to the mic. Set it up for him, Devin, for God's sakes. I mean, this is the head coach of the Memphis. Yeah, we're on.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, this is the way the show goes.
I love it.
He said, "Are we live?" Oh, we're live.
Jump right into it.
Yeah. All right. So you grow up in Florida, right?
Yep.
You go to high school at this big high school. I mean, a famous high school, the Bowl School, right?
Yep.
And all right, at what point are you playing football from a very early age? Were you like an athlete growing up?
Oh, I've never been called an athlete, so let's not mince words there. Yeah, no one's ever called me an athlete, but I did play football growing up, and then very fortunate to go to a nice school where I was able to play at a high level at that school. You know, they were one time ranked the number one team in the country with a lot of other athletes that surrounded me. I wasn't a very good player, but very fortunate to be around some good ones. And I had a neck injury, and was able to play through my senior year. And then my only official visit was actually to Georgetown University, and I thought they just had basketball. I had no idea they had football. And obviously, you look at me, no one looks at me and says, well, that's got to be a football player. Most people think I'm a kicker. So at the end of the day, I was able to start coaching when I was 18 years old.
Wow. All right, so hold on. Let's go back to this Bowl School. So you have the neck injury while you're in college. Now, you're not going to continue playing football after college, right? You're not. You decided you're not going to Georgetown to play football.
Yeah, no. I mean, my whole deal at that point, I said, you know what? What do I really want long term?
Okay.
And very fortunate that the coach I played for in high school said, hey, why don't you come out and help us out this spring and see if coaching's something you like. Never thought about it. Nobody in my family have done it. And but at the end of the day, I fell in love with it, and it's kind of led me down the path I am,
Okay, so wait, you guys won 2 state championships. I mean, you're kind of underselling this. If you won 2 state championships in the state of Florida and
Three,
and the number one school in the country. I mean, look, there's a billion schools, right? To be number one in that USA Today poll, right? Now, especially as you go travel around everywhere, and you probably even knew while you were coaching there. When you went around the country and you saw other teams, were you thinking, we really did have the best team? Like our high school team could have beat any of these teams.
Yeah, I think we were fortunate to have a lot of good guys, but I give a lot of credit, and that's what kind of got me into coaching is our head coach, a guy named Corky Rogers, he still is the leading all-time win coaching in the history of Florida history. He's fourth in the country. Recently passed away, but a guy that was a mentor to me that gave me my first opportunity at the age of 18. Certainly shouldn't have. And so I kind of think the lessons I learned, being on that team and then that program, discipline, doing things the right way, has kind of led me down the path, and a lot of those same philosophies has allowed me to be where I'm at today.
Okay, so you leave high school, and then what? What happens? You get into coaching almost immediately, but you're also going to school at the same time?
Yep, so I went to a small college in Virginia with no intention of playing college football. The fact that I knew that, probably wasn't my best interest. And at that small college, after my freshman year, they kind of let me volunteer a little bit, but I was almost like a grad assistant. Okay, it was a Division III school, and really going into my junior year, so I was still a sophomore in college. The defensive line position job had opened up, and at a small college, I said, well, let me at least apply for this. And the head coach who had been there, who's still there at the time, said, I can't hire a 20-year-old defensive line coach. And I said, well, let me interview for it. And did it, and very fortunate he hired me, but I was still going to college. And
you're a student at the school And the defensive line coach at the school.
Yeah. So the school was fortunate to work with me. You still have to be full time, but let's just say I was very fortunate. For some reason, I was majored in economics. I probably should have gone an easier route. But
well, now that you're a head coach, could you fathom hiring
a 20-year-old?
Yes.
I'm not going to dismiss that, but I wouldn't. So not to destroy the hopes and dreams of any 20-year-olds out there saying,
a current student in Memphis comes to you and like, hey, I saw the guy left.
Yeah.
Can I interview?
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, luck and timing of things, I think being around good people and learning. And so that kind of allowed me the affordability to coach at a young age and be a position coach when I was 20 years old. And, every year you're going to continue to learn and grow as a coach. And, I was kind of thrown right into the fire at a young age, but very appreciative of it and have learned. And I am hopefully not the same coach I was, 20 years ago.
Sure.
And so, now going on.
You're the only 39-year-old person in America that can say, hopefully I'm not the coach I was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
People check and they're like, bro, you were like 20. You're like, yeah, I was a coach at a college.
So this is 22 years in this profession. That's
insanity.
When people say the gray hair and the when I go get checked out by the doctor for heart disease, they say, you have a heart of a 60-year-old. Yeah, well, I've been a football coach for this long. So,
all right, then you're at the small school. And then where from there?
Yep. So was able to coach there, and then, as I was recruiting, it was interesting. You're student recruiting, and so it was back before the internet became really popular, and I certainly didn't have a cell phone back then. So, my professors would let me, go on the road, and we couldn't afford to fly back every weekend. So I was recruiting some Georgia and all that, and be mailing back exams, literally putting on a stamp. And these kids these days wouldn't know what that means.
Wow.
Didn't have the capabilities of emailing anything, but. There was recruiting a young man out of a high school in Savannah, Georgia, and I went by that school to meet with the head coach, and they're like, well, the head coach actually just left, so you got to meet with the athletic director. Met with the athletic director, and I said, well, who are you hiring for head coach? He goes, I have no idea. You got any ideas? And I said, well, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. Savannah's 2 hours away. I'm 23 years old. I would like to apply to be your head coach.
You are there to you're there to recruit a kid.
Right. But,
you end up in the AD's office trying to get the head coaching job?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the order it went, but yes.
Unbelievable.
So,
was the kid any good? Did he go to that school?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, you got him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it was kind of a trade-off. They lost a bad defensive line coach, and the school gained a bad young head coach. So, but yeah, when I was 23, I was a head coach at Memorial Day in Savannah, Georgia. And
do you know anybody there?
Nobody. But it was unique, obviously you just got to continue to grow up, and, obviously probably the youngest head coach in the country at the time. And it takes a certain, I'm certainly not saying I'm the most mature person out there, but it took a certain maturation and the ability to see things from all. I give tons of credit to high school coaches because the amount that's thrown on them. Now I'm dealing with parents and different issues of that matter, but it was a great opportunity. Did it for a year.
How do you know how to be a head coach when you're 23? I was on Beale Street.
Yeah.
You're like a real...
Well, the feet were directly in the fire. It's kind of like being a head coach during COVID and social injustice and Cotton Bowl, and here you go, let's go.
And did you ever think, oh, geez, I didn't get to sow my wild oats or whatever? Because, you got into, hardcore profession early, right? We all, you know what I mean? I was acting stupid still when I was 23 years old,
yeah,
right?
I still enjoyed my youth, but when I was 20 years old, my life was certainly not a typical college student's.
Right.
I was waking up Saturday mornings and doing official visits and those things, and having to recruit, in essence, kids that were near the same age, and I would never tell the parents how old I was. I would just kind of tell the story. Oh yeah, just kind of talk to them about. So with that manner, you kind of say, well, what I miss out on? But it was a great opportunity for me to get into this profession at a young age, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in this world. So
you're there in Georgia at Savannah for a year.
Yep.
What was your record?
No, we were terrible. So I'll just say this: we played. Hopefully, this is no reflection of what happens here at Memphis. But it was the second game of the year. We were playing the defending state champs, small school ball, and we were up 21-0 at halftime, and people were like, "Oh, they're killing them all. This is great." And we had their roster. There was 30 kids on our roster, maybe, and they had about 75. And at halftime, my kids were throwing up, and they're just worn out. I was like, "Well, let's see if we can drag this." And I was talking to the ref, can we speed this clock up? And I think we ended up losing 42-21, but. So that was
42 unanswered.
Yeah, I mean, So
Wikipedia says you went 1-9.
Yeah, well, we were bad.
Hey, so wait. So hold on now. Does AD what did I do?
Well,
I hired this 23-year-old who was here recruiting.
Yeah,
like,
what I do?
Now,
What kind of mess did I get myself
are you
in?
walking away, or are they like, all right, you can't do this anymore?
No, it was the fortunate, it worked out well. I mean, the record, obviously, no. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not trying to hide
But
that.
the kids grew, and they became men, and say all the other
The Disney story that we'll sell.
Yeah, right.
But the opportunity then came at Jacksonville University in my hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. Quarterback job came open. So I'm sitting here saying, well, here I am, 23 years old, obviously not a very good head high school coach at that time, and an opportunity now to go coach quarterbacks and continue to develop myself as a coach at the age of 24. In my hometown.
Who was the connection there?
Yeah, just had some connections throughout living there and just knowing some coaches. So at that point, it was just, okay, how can I continue? Like a lot of these young coaches, where can I progress in my career? Did that, went there for a year under a guy named Steve Gilbert. And then, my whole deal was, how do I continue to know people, right? I didn't have a famous dad. I didn't play college football. And as a young coach, all I kept doing was, how quickly can I move up in this profession? And that's the wrong mindset now as I'm older. I've realized, but it also allowed me to be where I'm at today. And so I went and took a grad assistant job after there at University of Central Florida under George O'Leary. Spent 2 years there, and then with luck and timing and some connections, got my foot in the door with the Minnesota Vikings.
And O'Leary is crazy connected. I mean, you coached for 50 years, right?
Yeah. 50 plus years. And so got in, was able to, every year with the Vikings kind of move up the ladder, so to speak. And very fortunate, worked under Brad Childress for 3 years, and then Leslie Frazier for 3, who's now the defense coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. Was there, got let go after 6, I was going on my third staff. And then, what happened
You made it through the first 2. That's pretty good.
Yeah, very fortunate.
Right?
Yeah, that horseshoe was pretty nice.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, my wife and I sat back and said, what's the best for us long term, right? You've hit this ground running for 15 years in your profession, and you haven't stopped. And
At what point in this do you get married?
It all gets lost in
lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I can't.
When?
After my first year with the Vikings.
It was
actually our second year, so I don't want to mince words. I think I've been married about 10 years now, so she tells me.
But you were in the NFL.
Yeah.
She was not by your side in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. Well,
that would have been young to get married to.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, my whole focus, that's why I waited till I was about 30 to get married. My whole focus had been my career.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we kind of sat back and said, well, what do we want to do? And a lot of people lead back to, we said, let's focus on each other, enjoy being around each other, and let's move to Scottsdale, Arizona. And she had lived there for part of her life, and we moved there, and that's where I met Mike Norvell.
So, wait, you just moved there without a job?
Yeah, we talked before about me helping them out, but for me it was the Vikings were still paying me, and
you had a contract. So hey, where can we go live?
Yeah, and
I still got the
living.
income without having to work.
And so we went from there, and that's where I met Mike Norvell. And I was a volunteer, but they gave me some fancy title like senior offensive analyst, which fancy volunteer.
Do you get paid? You don't get paid anything.
Well,
you're still getting paid from the Vikings, so you don't want to offset that.
Exactly right. So
understood.
Did that, and in the middle of the season, the Detroit Lions were 1-7, and they fired their offensive coordinators, their line coaches, and I remember walking into Mike Norvell's office, and I said, "Hey, Jim Caldwell just called me. I'm moving to Detroit." So went up to Detroit, lived in a hotel for a couple months, but a month there.
They did he call you? Who did he know?
Well, so when you're in the division for a while, they had to play the Packers, and just the schemes, having some connections, some people on that staff that I knew.
And when they're trying to put together a staff, as long as you're cool with everybody, your name might come up.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I got a guy.
Well, and it was the middle of the season. They were worried about what the future held.
I've got a guy who's in Scottsdale just living off the Vikings money.
So, anyways, wrapping it up. There, Mike get the job at Memphis and called me and said, hey, I want you to come be my offensive line coach at Memphis.
So do you just call Graham and them and Norvell out of nowhere when you're moving down to Scottsdale?
Well, it's a lot about connections. I mean, it's no different, right?
You knew him prior to?
Just in briefings through other people.
Gotcha.
But not a major prior relationship. Just like with anything, right? When I was out, I spent a week visiting Stanford. I spent a week at Florida, just visiting coaches I knew in this profession. And at the end of this, it was like, how can we get you to come back and do all these things?
So he calls you to come here.
And then he calls
16, is that right? 16.
It was, he got the job in November 2015, I believe it was.
Yep.
Or December. And then my last game was January 3rd, 2016, I believe, versus the Chicago Bears in Chicago. And the next day I was in my office in Memphis.
Things have gotten infinitely better here with Memphis football. But one of the big things at the beginning of Mike's time was, God, can you keep these assistants, right? Because, that's one of the big differences. When the Power 5 schools got all this money, they started paying these assistants crazy money, and some of them were making millions of dollars to be assistants at these schools. Your name would come up regularly, right? Like he lost Chip Long, who I still keep up with, and he lost other guys that went other places. You stayed. You stayed here through all of that, right? You clearly could have left and made more money somewhere else. Like, there's no way around it. But you were always here, like you were an old standby on this staff for the entire length of time. Why? Like, I'm sure every offseason this came up where it was like, hey, we could go make money if we move to here.
Yeah, and that question has come up often. Why wouldn't you leave? It's just Memphis. And I think what happened is you fall in love with the city, you fall in love with the community. Obviously, we got excellent leadership in President Rudd and our board of directors, and I think you see all that and you say, man, this place is special. What could this place be? And I think anybody that's been around it sees how wonderful this is. And I saw that not only in our football program, but when you're starting to fall in love with a city and where you are. And look, I think part of it also, for 15 years, I was hitting and getting and trying to do everything I could. And at a young age, in my late 20s, I was in the NFL. So for me, it wasn't about where can I go next?
Right.
And I had done that my entire career. Where can I go next? Where can I go next? Oh, wow, I'm in the NFL at a young age. This is great. But it wasn't what I really wanted. There was no substance to it, right? What am I getting in this profession for? And as those opportunities came up, I try not to evaluate. Every time someone would offer a job, I try to avoid what the money would say and just focus on where am I happiest. And, look, with the way timing worked out, it just happened to be that it was the right thing to do. And it put me into the seat to be the head coach. But the relationships I built with people throughout the city, this community, are in our players. And I think loyalty is a very hard thing to find in this profession these days. And look, I don't know how long I'll be at Memphis, hopefully for a long time. But I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I have a wonderful staff that we have now. And I'll never going to tell them they have to sit here and be loyal. But I think if you treat people right and you have success, hopefully we can build something, continue to build something special moving forward for a long time.
When Mike told you he's leaving for Florida State, are you panicked? Are you thinking at that point, oh, geez, now I've stayed all the way through this, now I am going to have to move? Or are you immediately turning your mind towards, I've got to get this job?
That's a great question. So Mike did offer me the opportunity to go with him to Florida State, and him and I had been in discussions every year. Obviously he, a popular coach, and rightfully so, had those opportunities. And we'd have dialogue about what's the next step in all this. And I made no bones about it to him. And that was a nice thing, is he knew that over the years that, look, he wanted me to stay with him as he would continue to move in his career. But I told him at one point, the opportunity opens up for me to be the head coach at Memphis, that would be a dream of mine. And he understood that. And so as soon as that happened, I said, really, I was very fortunate, right? I can either be the head coach at Memphis. If that doesn't work out, well, then I'm probably going to be the O-line coach at Florida State.
And you're from Florida.
And I'm from Florida. But also at that same point, I started thinking immediately about our players, right? I mean, these are these young men that I recruited, a lot of them on the roster now, given the years of turnover and everything that occurred, is how do we keep this going? And so as that occurred, as I was named interim, really head coach at midnight that night after the conference championship game, well, okay, and maybe I shouldn't have, but I was like, well, how do I keep this recruiting class together, right? How do we keep our current players on board, knowing good and well that we're going to be able to play in a big-time bowl game, right? New Year's Six bowl game.
The biggest bowl game that the school has ever played.
And so that really, everyone said, oh, you must have freaked out and spent hours upon hours preparing for your interview for the head coach job. Well, they made me interview for my own job. And really, to be the head coach, they had interviewed, I believe, 5 or 6 or 7 other candidates prior to interviewing me for the head job. And so, but the whole time, I mean, after our Cotton Bowl press conference, got on a plane and started recruiting. I showed up 4 hours late or 3.5 hours late for a dinner recruit that Sunday night that I was supposed to be in-house with. And just said, okay, we got to keep this recruiting class together. I got to make sure our players are doing what they're supposed to academically. I got to start putting together practice plans. I got to start getting together, our coaching staff, because some of the coaching staff was in limbo what they were doing. So it was about a week of no sleep, and very fortunate, after meeting with Laird Beach and the powers that be, was able to be named head coach by that Friday that afternoon.
Are you worried when they're out there interviewing all kinds of people?
That's out of my control.
Because at that point, right, you do wonder, I'm doing this obviously for the greater good. I care about this program. I care about those kids. I don't want them to lose a whole recruiting class. I don't want them to not be prepared for the Cotton Bowl. On the other hand, it's like, what if I don't reap the benefits of any of this? What if I'm down at Florida State or something?
Yeah, and I you don't sit there and ever say, well, what happens if this? So for me, I totally focused on my job at hand and acted as if I was the head coach, right? They gave me the interim title. Let me do everything in my power to just show exactly how it was if I was the head coach, and I didn't act any different, right? And so with that being said, my thoughts didn't lead to, well, what happens if this doesn't happen? What happens if I can't get this? So I put my focus on exactly like I was the head coach. And you just were fortunate with our recruiting class at the time. I mean, even the morning before they flew me out of the city to go interview for the head job at Memphis, I was hitting up as many local high schools as I could, trying to make sure, just getting in the high school, show them face. And I think it was real quick on the plan. I said, okay, let me think about what I need to say when I sit down with the committee and talk about it. But at the end of the day, I wanted them to hire me because of me, not because of what the players wanted, not because of what the fans wanted. Because it was the right fit at the right time for the University of Memphis.
Did you think that you would have the player support, though?
Look, the biggest thing that I always told them, and the question actually came up in my interview, was a lot of the players are supporting you. How are you going to make it where they're not feeling like they're running the roost when you get named the head coach? And I said, I think a lot of our players, and I found this throughout my career, right? People throw out the term players coach, all this, is if you hold players accountable and you show them that you care about them, but when you call and I'm going to rip their tail about academics, or if they're late, or if they miss a meal, or I'm checking on how their mom's doing, but you hold them accountable to the things they say they want to do, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they like me, but if they respect me and are willing to do everything they can for this program, that's really what I wanted. So that support, I believe, from the players came from the fact that, man, not that I'm soft on them. Maybe he's a hard ass, but he's going to get the most out of us. Maybe he's going to allow us to continue this winning culture and to be able to continue to develop as men on and off the field. And so, very fortunate that the player backing, I believe, was there. And let me tell you
absolutely. I mean, look, that video, it still gives me chills to watch that video of when they introduce you and you walk in and those players. I mean, it was pandemonium.
Well, hopefully the players don't have a revote. Right? But no, at the end of the day, it's
that's the first big recruiting job you have, which is you see this with schools all around the country. Guy leaves, all of a sudden there's a bloodletting. I didn't sign up to play for him. Right. You know what I mean? I signed up. I was going there to play. Mike Norvell's the guy that was the head coach there when I signed up there, and so. What's going to happen when he's gone? Is this going to be the same? Are we still going to have all of the same offense and all this kind of stuff? And they're probably all. And the other thing, this, these schools are leeches, so they're all on the phone with these kids. Yo, come here. You can, say even your quarterback. Hell, you could call him and say, yo, you could play a year here. You're grad transfer, right? So you got to go from the quarterback to you just had one of the best, players in the country and gain. Well, you had all these kids, and it's like. Big schools are probably going to, it's like you got to re-recruit them when you get that job, right?
Well, I think it comes back to relationships, right?
Yeah.
Relationships-based, guys knowing that you're not just going to let them do what they want, the accountability factor, and then the culture that we've been so fortunate, right? And look, from all the coaches before me, not just Justin Puente and Mike Norvell, but everybody, right? The establishment of the former players that have continued to build this culture to get it to where it is today. And I think what's a big thing when you're looking at a program and you can sit there and say, and it's not always going to be the case, but if kids are just flooding the transfer market, that probably shows you that something's wrong with the culture, right? Even if the head coach is a great guy and kids are flooding, maybe they don't feel like they're getting everything taken care of in their lives that they need to on and off the field, right? Even if the head coach is an ass, and the guys are staying, well, maybe they're doing the things the right way for them, right? That they're succeeding academically in the community, doing community service, their living situation, right? All those things. They appreciate the assistant coaches. And at the end of the day, we've been very fortunate that a lot of people are very happy to play at the University of Memphis.
What'd your wife say? She say chase this Memphis job, or she say let's go down to Florida?
Well, she's been 100% supportive, and I'm very fortunate still. She's actually in fourth-year medical student, and so she's had her own career, her own hopes and goals. So, when she met me, I was making $30,000 a year, and even my first year in the NFL, they didn't pay me very well. And but so for her, it's always been she's her.
You
own.
made $30,000 in the NFL?
Well, it's the old Belichick theory. Hey, we're going to pay you $30,000. You stay for another year. We'll double your salary. You stay for another year, which is good. That's a good thing for young coaches, and that's the same method that Belichick's used with the Patriots. You see some of these young coaches, and you say, "Why do you stay there that long?" Well,
I thought they were getting paid more than $30,000.
Oh, they are now. Yeah, I can promise you. Yeah, Josh McDaniels making a little bit more than $30,000. Probably add about 5 more zeros to it.
That's probably true. But she was cool with you chasing this.
Absolutely. I don't think it's ever been about the money. It's never been about certainly any type of fame of that. It's just what fulfills you, and the opportunity to lead a program of 115 young men, a great staff and great support staff. I think that's key to everything, and it's been my goal and been my dream, and I'm so very fortunate to do it at such a wonderful place.
Was there any trip ups during the interview when you interviewed for head coach? Was there anything you walked out of there and you're like, shoot? Or did you feel great about it?
I think just being myself, and if they didn't like that, if they didn't like my answers, most people know I'm pretty transparent, and that's how I approach the interview as well. Let me just tell them exactly the way we're going to do things, how I'm going to do it. And for me, it felt more like a conversation with people that I respect and knew, and just kind of showing the plan, right? And the culture we've been able to build and how we can continue to create that and keep that. And, there wasn't a single question. I mean, look, this day and age, you're going to get asked everything. And just always got to be prepared. I think if you're very straightforward and speak what's on your mind and in your heart, that's and if it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. What was it like when you heard? How did you hear? Who called you?
I'm not sure if this is public knowledge, but Laird Veach had finished up the interview back in Memphis that night, and our athletic director had spoken to the powers that be and came over to my house late that night. In fact, we had good talks and said, this is what we're going to do. And so... And then I said, okay, that's great. Now I got to go prepare for the press conference. And by the way, I've got official visits coming. I've got 9 recruits coming in.
Wait, he just showed up at your house?
Well, we talked. But it was 11 o'clock that night, yeah.
And he says, I want to come over?
Oh, yeah, he said, I'm on my way. So in my mind, I said, well, he's either coming over and say, hey, just need you to coach the Cotton Bowl. We're going a different direction. Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, I said,
it's a long half an hour,
First
right?
and foremost, it was a long day, so I put down my adult beverage. Then I went and got dressed.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Then I went and got dressed, and then I said, I got off the couch, and I said, okay. And we had a good talk and kind of explained, and it all worked out well. And, for him and the powers that be to say, hey, look, because it's also his first major hire as well.
Yeah, right.
And to be his guy and to move forward arm in arm together with this thing, it's a wonderful opportunity.
And then, as you're in the midst of getting this job and putting it all together to get ready for the season and spring and everything, a friggin' global pandemic comes. I'm going to take a quick break, and we're going to get to all the challenges of that have taken place right after these words. Memphis football coach Ryan Silverfield is here in studio. So when we broke off the conversation, so you get the job, you're working, and then this whole coronavirus stuff starts. There's no spring football, really, right? No spring football, so you lose that preparation. And now, do you guys have like a tentative schedule? Is that the way it works right now?
So when this all broke, we actually were on spring break. So we didn't have a single spring practice. Our young men actually went on spring break, the school did, and it was, well, we're not bringing them back from spring break. So they had a extended spring break for quite a long time.
Man.
And what's happened is this whole thing, as we all know, it changes daily, it changes weekly. So the communication had to be constant. And our number one concern when all this happened was the safety and health and welfare of our players, right? Hey, are you okay? And immediately we set up a safety and health welfare check system. We had everybody on our roster where, hey, coaches are checking on them every other day. GAs are checking on them every other day with academics, right? Because they're still in classes. So they went immediately to an online model. We had some young men were places without internet, without laptops. So without panicking, it was, okay, what's the next step we could do? And so making sure they're okay, their families are okay. Obviously, anything we could do if they were having symptoms, that communication, but also want them to do well academically. Then at some point we started discussing, okay, we are eventually coming back to play football. You make sure you're doing some type of workout. Well, all the gyms were closed. And so you could do voluntary workouts that you'd send them and say, hey, this is what we recommend you do. And the NCAA has provided some guidelines. But as we're moving forward, the NCAA has laid out a schedule for us. Starting on Monday, workouts can be mandatory. We're allowed what we call 8 care log hours. We're able to start doing some meetings and all that stuff. But again, you still got to maintain. We're trying to do some social distancing. You're not allowing guys to sit in meeting rooms crowded seat by seat. So we're going to do whatever is in the best interest of our student athletes to keep them safe. But at the same point, preparing for a season in 2020.
How do you, typically your sole focus is football, right? And now, whenever you come back, it's splintered, right? You're thinking, health of these guys first and making sure everybody's safe.
Right.
And then football, I can only imagine it creates a very difficult situation for you, right? Because typically it's just tunnel vision. What's our first game? And get ready and whatever. And now it's like, are the guys far enough apart? Are we getting tested all the time? Every time you hear somebody cough, it's like, oh God, right?
Yeah, I think what's happened is, and everyone always said, hey, when you're a head coach, so much is going to be taken away from actually the X's and O's. And now so more than ever due to the pandemic and things that are occurring in our society. So reality, most of my day is not spent, hey, how can we block these guys? How can we do that?
Yeah.
And that's what I love and think about quite often. But most of my focus is the players. And so it's part of it. Everybody in the country is going through it. Again, we're always going to do things the right way. The nice thing is, we got a wonderful support staff. Our director of football operations, Sam Curtis, is every day making up new calendars, helping me with the scheduling of things. And all of those things are so important and vital moving forward. And what I keep telling our guys, hey, we got to be flexible, right? Just like everybody, whether it's the city of Memphis trying to go to phase 3, and then, hey, things are changing now with the mask ordinance and how we got to do things. I think let's be smart, let's be cognizant of the way we're going to do things, and we'll take steps every single day knowing tomorrow may be a new day for something else.
You think there's any chance it starts on time?
I do. I really do. I'm an optimist. I think, we've been very fortunate the way we've been testing our guys. And I think if people continue to do things the right way, there's a good chance the season starts on time. And like I tell our team all the time, you have to prepare.
Right, like it's starting.
No question, because if you're not, then you're going to go out and get embarrassed September 5th. So we've got a wonderful schedule, wonderful opponents. So
you guys are like out on the field full bore starting next week?
Well, not out. So it's really what we're still able to do is you can now do mandatory weightlifting sessions and all that stuff. So we won't be out there with a helmet. We won't be out there with a football.
When do you get to do that?
Really, we can't do any. Our training camp starts August 7th. And then we're rolling.
You got a month.
You got a month.
Assuming the season starts September 5th. You've got a little less than a month. And you had no spring football.
And so what I talked to some
you're lucky you got Brady and Gainwell and Coaksy, all these guys coming back. Well, imagine schools with all new players.
Well, that's why I talked to some of our guys.
Good
I said,
grief.
Have a sense of urgency. And again, it's all currently voluntary, so we're smart with the way we do things. But a lot of our guys, right, if you're an offensive lineman, you haven't blocked somebody in over half a year. You haven't, if you're TJ Carter, you haven't guarded a wide receiver since the Cotton Bowl. Prior to that, to the championship game when he got hurt.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of these guys have not been able to put their hands on somebody, block somebody, do those things, and it's way over. Again, no excuses, no explanations. We'll be fine and we'll get it done. But when that time comes, we also got to keep them healthy.
Yeah.
And it's part of the deal. We'll figure it out.
How stressful has this been for you? I know look, you've been coaching since you were 18 years old or whatever. So, but.
Without giving you coach speak, it's been quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I've got to be there as a leader for our program and show, regardless of everything that occurs every day, that every day there's going to be a new fire, right? Something else is going to come up, and there's other things I've got to deal with. But if I can show our players leadership and our staff resolve that we're going to get through this and positivity, we're all on board. So you can't sit there and fold and say, oh, this is just beating me down and give the puppy dog face. It's, hey, we're going to get through this, and we're going to be dynamic when we get to the other side. So keep that positive disposition. We'll be all right.
But, this is it's your first year. You're thrown in the fire. I mean, this is this harder than 23 years old in Savannah?
Well, I was looking at, there's nothing about COVID in Chapter 12 of the coach's manual, right? It's not like I can go and call, hey, Coach Saban, what are you doing during COVID? What did you do 20 years ago when this? So there's no manual for this. And I think we're all, and again, like I said, I've been so fortunate to have a great staff. We're over communicating, trying to do things the right way. The culture with our program has certainly helped. And that's what gives me belief that we'll be fine.
So, in addition to COVID-19 and everything that's been going on with this, there has been incredible amounts of protest, et cetera, around the country dealing with social justice. And I know that many of your players, right, care very deeply about these causes, to the point where Memphis, your football program, announced, I believe, I haven't seen anybody else, but there's going to be a Black Lives Matter decal on the helmet. So if you can, kind of talk to me about through that and going through that with a roster of young men, many of which are African American, going through that, talking to them and the conversations you guys have, and then up to the point where you decide we have an opportunity, we have a platform, and we want to put this decal on the helmet.
You're exactly right, Chris. So, social justice, injustices have been going on for far too long. And as it continues to be brought to light, I knew my number one job as a head coach was to listen. And I certainly don't have the answers, but I could listen to a lot of our young men and have them share stories and talk to me about what was going on, their thoughts, their feelings. And I encourage our staff, hey, when you're on a Zoom call going over X's and O's, talk to them about their lives. Ask them. There are certain things that in 22 years of coaching, I had no idea about. And so shame on me. So I had to grow as a head coach. I had to grow as a person and listen to our players. And as these things were going on and occurring, I asked our young men, what would you like to do? And, we did the nice Unity March, which was great with our athletic department. And just talking to them, many of them said, hey, we'd love to have some type of platform for us to use on a game day situation. And so, we discussed, and, with the Leaping Tiger on the BLM sticker, it's going to be the decal. It's going to go on the back of the helmet, just like we have to recognize, we've had equipment managers that passed away. We've put their initials on the back. This is certainly not a political push. This is not a Marxist group that we are trying to do. This is a movement. And so one of those things we're just kind of trying to do is just continue to show that we support our young men. And this is a way for our football program to show that we're united as one, and we're going to continue to stand against social injustice in a small way to continue to recognize this so it doesn't go away. So it's not just one tweet, in the summer and it goes away. It's just constantly recognizing, and we're going to continue to try to learn and listen and improve. And hey, if we can make a little bit of a difference in some people's lives, or it shows our players that we support them no matter what your beliefs are, we're going to do that.
Anytime that people agree or are positive, it's always going to get drowned out by people that are negative. And so when the inevitable backlash comes, right, they say, oh, I don't want them wearing this decal on the helmet or whatever else, handling that, it's coming, right? Everything now is political. We have to fight over everything. It's so sad, but that's just the way the world is right now. And so there's a lot of people, I even got to it, right? Like, it wasn't like I was out there talking about, hey, this is awesome, because that's unfortunately many times our instinct is if we agree with something or it's a positive thing or whatever, usually when it's something we don't agree with or we don't like, that's when you're saying something about it. And so those are the voices people end up seeing and hearing where that's clearly not the majority opinion, but you are going to face that. And there are, I'm sure there's season ticket holders that called. There was people that write letters to the editor about a sticker on a helmet, whatever. Dealing with that and then message to the people that do have a problem for whatever reason about it.
95% of the feedback has been wonderful. I got calls and text messages from coaches all over the country, NFL coaches, college head coaches, saying thank you. We appreciate it. A lot of them wishing they would have done it or could do it. And I think so many people are afraid to step out on that ledge because there may be some people that disagree with it. Mm-hmm. And again, this is all going back to the support for our players. Yes. This is not a political party. This is not Marxism. This is none of that. The Air Force Academy came out with a Black Lives Matter video the other day. And they got absolutely bashed by the small majority that said, how can our Air Force do this? And so, look, it's going to be on the side of the courts at NBA games. Major League Baseball is now promoting it. And so this is just trying to recognize the issues that are occurring in our society. And that's all this is. And so those people that don't necessarily, and I'm not asking them to agree with it. I'm not. But I'm asking them to continue to support our players. If you're going to be there and cheer for our young men on Saturdays and fill that Liberty Bowl and be proud and respect and appreciate Kenny Gainwell for the type of football players, well, love and appreciate him off the field, because this is something that's important to him. And I look at, like you said, the majority of our roster being African American. These are young men that I got to care for, and I'm going to treat them just like my sons. And if this is something that's so important to them, we're going to do it. And I think they appreciate that, and they know and love and respect, and the rest of our staff will continue to do that and be there for them. It's no different than when any other situation arises.
So when on a lighter note, when I reached out to people that you had coached with before, what I gathered was, and I will tell you, I spoke to Mike Norvell, and he told me, he said he has an incredible knowledge of movies and music. He loves movies and music. That's what he told me about you.
Oh, I
That's what he said.
I can't remember.
He said he really knows music and movies.
I know some music.
Because I asked him, I was like, what would I be surprised about? He's like, he does know a lot about movies and music. I know that. You don't?
I think because I'm an old soul. So, it's, I throw out a movie, like
and he
Flex
hasn't
Lives,
seen it.
and he's like, what is that?
I know. And all he's watched is like whatever with his daughter.
Yeah, whatever. Disney movies out now. And I think just having a certain appreciation for movies, I think a lot of the players for music. My first concert was a Huey Lewis and the News concert, which I'm sure most of your listeners are like, how old is this guy again? And then I went to see an AC/DC concert with my dad when I was 10 years old, wearing a cut off AC/DC shirt.
10?
Oh yeah, rocked out. But then in 1995, I saw Notorious B.I.G. live in concert in downtown Jacksonville.
Oh, Roser, how jealous are you?
So, too interesting. My first concert was AC/DC at what is now Bass Pro Shops, but it was the Pyramid at the time.
Excellent.
Yeah, AC/DC was Biggie's like my favorite rapper ever. So
there you go. So
I'm jealous that you got to see that.
There's not many head coaches out there that can say, well, saw Huey Lewis and News, AC/DC, saw Neptunes perform, saw Biggie Smalls.
Wait, the Neptunes, you talking about Pharrell was there?
Back in Farmville, Virginia. 1999.
Don't tell me Clips showed up.
Yeah.
Pusha T didn't show up, did he?
So
they live down the street from each other, right? Pusha T.
Yeah, Neptunes, Pharrell produced all their albums.
That's crazy. You saw the Neptunes in Virginia. You see
I've been all
the
Garth Brooks. So look, it's a wide variety of stuff. Right? Some people can say, that's a nice thing is it's a well-rounded background, and I certainly have no musical talents myself, but I appreciate good music.
Well, you listen to it on? You like off your phone now?
Most people have to show me how to turn my phone on. The technology, the way it's gotten, I'm pretty pathetic.
They
in that
do
manner.
not. They're not for recruiting. They don't.
Yeah,
right. Let me tell you that.
That's the one thing I think
the only
I can
thing you know how to do.
That's right.
Don't tell me you still got a flip phone or something, right?
Maybe.
All right. So hold on. Do you listen to music at the house? Do you work out?
I know it's hard to tell, but yes.
No, I mean, what do you do?
I do.
You run, you lift weights.
I try to do a little bit of everything. So I'm an early riser and just try to get in and get a run or lift a couple times a week. And I do.
You listen to music while you're doing that?
Yeah. If you were asking me what my favorite is.
All AC/DC when you're working out.
Yeah. Rage Against the Machine, let's go.
There you go.
No, it's I'm a classic rock type guy. I'll listen to some decent country, but I also prefer some good old school hip hop as well.
All right, so you listen to that kind of music, and then in terms of the movies thing,
I don't.
You're not.
I'm not
cinephile.
Much, I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember last time I sat down and had the. I think in this profession, I can't remember last time my coach was able to sit down and watch a full movie, right? Especially if the cell phone's buying you.
You don't remember the last movie you watched, even
during quarantine, right?
Everybody said,
for
your wife's sake, right? If she said.
Yeah,
my wife tried to talk me into a few, and I was like, nah, you watch that.
I'll be willing to take some recommendations, that's for sure.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So have you watched any TV shows? Like during this whole quarantine, you haven't... you have just been recruiting all day, every day. You haven't watched anything on Netflix, nothing on...
I watched...
Do you even have Netflix? Please tell me you have Netflix.
No comment.
Oh, my God.
Your wife has Netflix.
I think she does, yeah. Because one day she said, look at this Tiger King stuff that's going on.
Oh, then she's got it. Well, she's got Netflix.
But we don't watch, there's not a whole lot of TV in the house. I mean, she spends her entire day studying and doing those things. And
you do have a TV, right?
Yeah. We
okay, all right.
We have plenty of TVs, yeah. So it's just, but there's other things in life I think that are so much more important. I think part of that is it's actually interesting. When we were in quarantine, and my biggest deal is like I tried to make it, and I didn't do a great job, but try to communicate with our players as often. Hey, just check in with them. Try to recruit your tail off, right? Because that's the one thing you had during that time. You had time to get to build relationships with these recruits.
All right.
And, I can't tell you the number of times we try to plan a schedule and then it get ripped up due to the COVID. And, you just try to stay on top of those things.
Okay, but like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, right? Like last night I turned on some golf thing that was on. It was just on TV, and I'm just winding down, so I turned something. That's not your life. You don't turn anything on.
Sometimes we have like HGTV or something exciting going on in the background. But, maybe try to read a book.
If I showed up at your house at 9 o'clock, what are you doing? Seriously.
Probably catch me sleeping. Or
Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
You're just on your phone.
Probably recruiting.
Really?
And then when I'm done recruiting that night, I'm probably going to bed. And
that's it?
That's it. It's a pretty boring life. Don't let me tell you about the glamorous life that I promise you.
Well, look, man.
I have our assistant coaches tell me how I need to dress because they said I got to get some fashion sense.
They say you don't have swag?
Which is complete BS. I mean,
Oh, really? You do have some swag?
I got to show them how it's done.
Like, if you're not wearing a Memphis polo, what do I catch you in?
I don't know if I own anything else. Yeah, when I go out, maybe I can wear.
When is the last day you did not wear a Memphis polo?
Well, maybe I'll throw a Gibson's Donut T-shirt or something that someone gave me down the road. But it's a pretty pathetic.
But it's your life. It's not pathetic. It's your life.
Absolutely.
And it's your passion.
I think that's all I know. Right now, I'm not saying that I try to be well-rounded and versed and travel and do those things and read, but at the end of the day, my life revolves around the 115 young men that we get to be around every day. And just like I think anybody else that truly has a passion for what they do and they care about it, right? You can say it's not really a job. This is my life. And I'm not saying I'm a football coach and that's all I know is football. No, the reality of it is I try to be as involved in our football program with everything that's involved with it, especially this day and age, right? You don't have time to just sit back and, I wish I could say, sit back and watch a lot of TV and relax and not do anything, but there's a lot of things that are occurring every single day, and a lot of people that you got to talk to about certain things and continue to do it the right way.
Regarding the recruiting thing, on the front end, were you scared Brady was going to leave?
So Brady's a young man that I've had a relationship with. Thank goodness the offensive line played decently enough where he's like, man, this guy, he's going to get me killed another year. But Brady and I have had a great relationship and have had good communication since he's been here at Memphis. And I think there's that mutual respect. Anybody knows Brady knows he's a fantastic quarterback, but more than anything, he's an awesome young man. On and off the field, right? In the church, in the community, the things he does, he represents the university the right way with everything he does. So,
even with the good relationship, though, there has to be something. I mean, the guy's babysitting the coach's daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he clearly had a different relationship with Norvell than
absolutely.
The normal player does, right?
No doubt. So, but I think just talking to him about, hey, what does the NFL possibly hold? What does transferring possibly hold? And, him and I had very candid conversations, me and his father as well. And, he loves this city as well. And he loves this community. And it was a decision to come back, and I think he's just as excited now as he was the day he stepped foot on campus.
How many guys did you have to talk out of leaving? Did
None.
You feel like? You didn't feel like you had to talk any of
None,
them?
because if a young man doesn't want to be there, it's hard. It's hard for these guys to play college football. They do a lot. We ask a lot of them, and it's a full-time job. So if we're sitting there having to beg people to stay, they're probably better off somewhere else, whether it's trying to play in the NFL or transfer somewhere else. So if I have to beg you to stay at the University of Memphis, it's not the place for you. And my guess is for a long time, we're not going to have to beg many people to stay at Memphis. It's a special place. And, I think everybody that's been involved in our program truly realizes that.
Well, and obviously you are hard selling that. And you have, look, you got to get them all to sign the dotted line in the end. But and I know we can't talk about specific players. You got a lot of commitments already. There's a lot of kids that are signing up and want to, because I see it on Twitter literally every other day or every day. The rankings very high as far as recruiting rankings go. In terms of your pitch and you're walking in, you've obviously, that message has certainly gotten through. You know that you're coming off best season, Cotton Bowl season, right? Memphis football is at a higher status now than it has ever been before. And so the idea is you've got to capitalize on that. So when you're walking into living rooms, clearly you're getting good reception on this, but what are you selling to them that is getting these kids so interested in being a part of it?
Yeah, I think it's the same things that sold me on being here, right? This wonderful city where the relationships with the people, right? And the University of Memphis, the education keeps getting better and better. And one of the things that we don't sell often enough is we're 7th in the country in internship opportunities, right? And I think that's huge. So if you're a young man and you're looking at maybe going to an SEC school in a smaller town, well, you may be going to an internship at Jim's Auto and Tire, right? Nothing wrong with that, but if we can get you an internship at FedEx, ServiceMaster, Nike, all these wonderful places, maybe even with the Memphis Grizzlies, I think that makes a huge difference. And so a lot of people say, hey, we're not just preparing you, not only are we going to have success on the football field, but let you have success when it's all said and done. So that internship opportunity we talked about.
I have never heard that I've been here 20 years.
Well, then I've got to do a better job of making sure I get it out there.
7th in the country.
Absolutely.
In internship opportunities.
In fact, we're going to get a little billboard back here. I'm going to put it up there. I'll pay $1 a day.
Do you even know who the top 6 are? No.
Doesn't matter.
Nobody knows. Who cares? We're probably not even set. I'm kidding.
Oh, he's got his Wikipedia over there.
I mean, really, where do I even look that up?
But there's so much to sell, right?
Yeah.
There's so much to do in this city, right? But where the university is, it's a great community. The efforts that have been made by the people, the donors, for our indoor practice facility, for our facilities, it's second to none. Our fans in the Liberty Bowl. I mean, not only do you talk about the fans there and the game day atmosphere, but the locker room down there. It's just all these things combined make it this unique place. And anybody that's ever lived in Memphis, to all the fans listening to you right now, is when everybody says, what is it about Memphis? Well, it's just Memphis.
Yeah.
And you can't explain it, and then you get a chance to feel it. But when you're sitting in a living room or talking to these young men and their families, they can see the passion. They can see how much you love this place. They can see the videos of the facilities, right? They can hear about the passionate fans, the internship opportunities, the city, the community, right? Over 10,000 hours of community service that our team does, right? St. Jude's, Le Bonheur.
Ryan, one of the things that when it was going on, and I remember us talking about it because it was happening right outside the studio, was you don't get cracks at this, especially when you're not these Power 5 schools, and that was College Game Day. And we were like, the whole country gets to see this. Have you found that did really resonate and that kids were well aware that College Game Day was in Memphis last year?
I think Memphis had always been slowly edging itself on a national map, right, and trying to show where it fits. I think what that did was it validated it for a lot of people not in this region. So you have people from California now all of a sudden waking up and saying, oh, wow, Memphis is legit.
Yeah.
And I think it gave people the idea now, hey, this is a school and a program, a university, a city to be reckoned with. Yeah. And I think that allowed it to set and stay on a national stage. And so,
do they mention that to you? Do they mention the Cotton Bowl to you?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And everybody says, well, since you've been at Memphis now going on 5 years, what's been your favorite memory? Look, obviously the Cotton Bowl will be something I'll never forget, my first head coaching job. But given the result, I'll never be pleased with a loss. I think the young men played hard, and I think we represented the university the right way in that game.
You guys got nothing to be ashamed of in that game. You don't.
No question.
That friggin' linebacker from
Michael
Penn State. Yeah. Oh, my God. It looked like you were playing against Lawrence Taylor out there. I'm like, who is this guy?
He might end up being that type of player. But I think my favorite moment was walking out, College Game Day in the morning. You turn on yes, I did turn on the TV in the hotel that morning. There you go. Turn it to ESPN, and you get to see all these people. And I claim that this is our city, my city. And all these people are out there for a football game that's going to occur later on that the whole world gets to see. And then you run out to the stadium and you look up in the stand and you see all blue, Memphis blue, and they're there to support our young men. That's been the greatest moment because that's something that people always said, man, we can get to that, we can do this, and then you get to see it.
Yep.
And then you go out and the guys played like they did. That's been my greatest moment so far, and we're going to continue to make history here and make a lot of wonderful, memorable moments for the city and for the community.
It's going to be super, super fun. When you first got the job, one of the things, I think, and you know this, what everybody says is, can he coach? right? He's obviously recruiting really well, but, I mean, he has been elevated. You weren't the offensive coordinator, right?
Correct.
Typically, an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator is the one that goes into the job. So why are you best equipped for them to hire you? Because this is probably what they asked you, right?
Absolutely.
You're taking a leap, right, from the offensive line coach to now becoming the head coach. It's not typical of most ascensions to the head coaching position.
You're absolutely right. And so that was a question that says, how are you going to be able to? Well, if you look in the room over the last few years, right, we have the most number of players, right? 20 offensive linemen in the room. So I've dealt with mass groups, right? I've been able to be there at Memphis and understand what it takes to be successful. And look, and the biggest thing is also surrounding myself with a great support cast. Mm-hmm. I certainly am not going to sit here and say I can do this all on my own, right? When we win a lot of games, it's going to be because we got wonderful support cast, mm-hmm. and great coordinators, great coaches, great everybody, and that those people are as integral as our success as me, and if not, certainly more so. And so I'm always going to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, that have better answers, that can figure things out, and that will allow us to continue to have success. And I think I'm not ashamed to admit, hey, we're going to continue to build this thing, and here's some of the answers, and here's the ways we continue to get better.
All right, last thing. What do you do for fun? What is fun to Ryan Silverfield?
Yeah, look.
What is fun?
Fun for me is when I'm out there with the guys, being on the grass.
Okay, you can't do it because it's COVID. So what now? What?
Yeah, sometimes people say, I'll go for long walks by myself in East Memphis. So. But I enjoy.
What do you do for fun?
I enjoy being outside. I really do. To me, that's
fish. You hunt
a little bit. No hunting.
No hunting. You fish.
Honestly, for me, my wife and I can go for long walks.
You're the kind of guy that just likes to work. You like working.
But to me, it's not work. It's
right.
But yeah, I think.
But that's what's fun to you.
There's no doubt about it. If you had said, hey, what would you like to do?
It's not something you can do with other people, though, Ryan.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't say, hey, man, let's go do something fun. And you say, like, call recruits.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah, I'm probably pretty fun. That's maybe the reason why I don't have many friends.
You don't?
Yeah. So
no. It's because when we were all acting stupid, you were coaching football at 18. That's why it's hard.
It may lead me to an early death, but we'll be good. No.
No.
It's when you love what you do, it truly is your passion, and I think, in the seat that I've been given, you got to constantly stay on top of things. I enjoy my life. I enjoy being around our guys. I enjoy everything that comes along with it. But at the end of the day, we just attack every single day, and whatever is going to come of it, we're going to make the most of.
You really think I'll be in the Liberty Bowl watching a football game September 5th?
I certainly hope to see you there.
Man, I will be there if y'all are playing. You really think? I mean, not just glass half full thing.
Yeah, I really do.
You really think?
I really do. I think
because you're in the meetings every day with people.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously this is the most pertinent thing going on, right? Football is a massive deal for the school,
question.
And for in the whole South.
And the biggest thing is just making sure that we are following the right protocols to make sure everybody's safe. Is it going to look like it did last year? No. That's the reality of it. I mean, I can, with a straight face, say it's not going to look like it did last year, right? There's going to be some times where a team may be missing a couple players due to COVID, right? The fans aren't certainly
can't be arm in arm, 60,000
Yeah,
people,
as
right?
it's still continue to be discussed, but we're in every single day discussions about what we want this to look like. Even the sideline is going to look different, right? The bubble on the sideline. How far out does the sideline go? Where are reporters allowed, right? Or post-game interviews. Is it going to be done via Zoom, right?
Oh, wow. You got like a hazmat suit or something?
Yeah, full deal. That's right. So it's, but the biggest thing is going to be the health and safety of everybody involved. And if we can find a way to make that happen, we'll be playing football.
You're the man. Thank you for coming in today, man. He's Dan Wetzel. Danny!
What's up, Verno?
You know what? I went to go look up this thing that you're author of, Epic Athletes, because, I've got two young kids, and there were only a couple of them available when I looked. So you're going to be releasing these all throughout the year. Is this going to be like a long series, I hope?
Were they sold out? I hope they were sold out. No, I don't know. No, we have 10 of them. There's 7 are out right now. Steph Curry.
They probably were sold out.
These are all sports bios, like sports bios for, middle school reader, little high school, maybe even all the way to 3rd grade if you're a really good reader. Kind of those old, 100-page sports sports biographies that a lot of us read as kids. So it's been good. It's not easy getting kids to read, but we're doing all right. So that's good. We got Steph Curry, Tom Brady, LeBron, Lionel Messi,
Durant.
Alex Morgan. Kevin Durant is coming really soon, like maybe this month. I'm not sure. Let's see. Simone Biles, Serena Williams. I'm not sure if I.
All right, well,
Patrick
hey,
Mahomes.
look, I'm going to let you know, author of the
Zion
books.
Williamson. We got them all.
Hey.
You know, you got a kid, buy a book.
Hey, author of kids' books, Dan Wetzel. I will let you know that the Kevin Durant will be at my house at August 4th. That's when it's getting released.
August 4th. Okay, thank you.
I can let you know about your own.
I know my part was done.
Your
so
own.
Whatever.
I'll let you know when your books are getting released. How about that?
That's good. I appreciate it.
We're a little far off on Mahomes. And I also mentioned, by the way, can you let somebody else have a job? I swear, I watched that Hernandez thing, and I thought it was great. I didn't know you were the executive producer of that until I clicked on your Twitter bio this morning, and you had put that on there, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing executive producing movies?
Well, you saw me in there, didn't you?
Yeah. But,
Okay, well, I was
you're
in
on
there.
But you're on like every documentary that's taken place for the last 10 years.
Yeah, well, they need me to bring in the sex appeal. It's like you need the leading man, like Clooney.
Yeah.
You gotta something like that. So
That's right.
I understand it's a burden, but someone's got to do that. Yeah, well, I cover. I mean, I was on your show talking about it.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
So speaking of, another thing regarding documentaries that you were on the show talking about, and I was super interested in getting your take on this. So you've heard of Musa Cisse, right? He's the kid that's – okay, he lives in Memphis. Now all these crystal ball predictions have said he's going to go to Memphis. He was not going to go to Memphis, and almost everybody here thought he was going to LSU. They're still saying it's between Memphis and LSU whenever the kid makes his decision. But right before he was about to make his decision, which everybody around here told me he was going to say LSU, right before that happened, Oklahoma State got hammered as part of that Christian Dawkins thing. And so, obviously, I wondered aloud, like, does this have anything to do with that? Because LSU's in there, too. And so if everybody just saw what happened to Oklahoma State, then surely a kid who's reclassified is trying to go to college. He ain't trying to go to somebody that's about to get hammered by the NCAA. Memphis has got their own issues with that, right? But I wondered what you thought about LSU in the mix in that, in regards to after you saw what the Oklahoma State penalties were, which were rather severe. Are you of mind, after covering that whole trial and knowing all about that LSU will end up getting hammered because of that stuff?
Yeah, look, if you're looking for a college now, it's not easy to find one that doesn't have NCAA issues. So that's
Number one.
one challenge. I would think I think the Oklahoma State case and the postseason ban and the aggressiveness that the NCAA hit them with, the aggressiveness that we have seen the enforcement staff exert on NC State and Kansas, which are really two of the cases we know publicly, suggests the NCAA is very motivated to hit up everybody who was involved in that case or anybody who's breaking any rules. It's almost like they had to listen to everyone say, hey, you guys haven't done anything for years, and now they're kind of ratcheting back. So we'll see what happens on the full LSU case. I'm not going to argue the particulars, but I would not want to be in the NCAA crosshairs right now. And I think what they did to Oklahoma State should send a shudder to anybody who's in that spot, because they're going to hand out these postseason bans as fast as they can. The penalties are stiffer now than they were 5 years ago, and it just looks like an aggressive time for the NCAA to try to grab some control of this sport. while they still can and grab some level of credibility. And I think the Kansas case will be the really big one.
Okay, so as you were covering that whole deal, and you were listening to all the evidence unfold, did you think after you walked out? If I would have asked you, all right, which schools, if the NCAA decides to go after this whole story, who's getting it the worst? Would you have said Kansas?
I would say Kansas, but I would have said, any of them almost in this trial. I blasted the NCAA numerous times, and a lot of these people who run college sports, the commissioners and the even some of the prominent ADs and stuff like that, and who like to cry like they have no idea what's going on. Court was free. You could just walk in. There was plenty of room, and you could sit there. And if you sat there for 8 hours a day and listened to the stories and the testimony and see the text messages and get the full sense of what's going on, you would say, this is utterly absurd. Every one of these schools is cheating as hard as they can possibly cheat. And, if you want to go to you want to bring in a slew of lawyers, you can try to parse it out and argue it. But in general, I mean, forget about it. These schools are guilty, guilty, guilty. And so, it's what kind of organization do you want to run? I don't know anybody who sat through that trial and thought, well, what exactly is the definition of is? What do they exactly mean by this? Like, it's so obviously clear. And so you can parse it, and that's what the lawyers did, but it was like, how does the NCAA not have someone sitting here? How is a commissioner not here? Not one. Not how about an associate commissioner to learn about how the sport is? I mean, it is the sport unvarnished. We had parents of recruits talking about offers for hours under oath, significant, literally the Adidas's bag man, as he was referred to, TJ Gasnola, 3 days on the stand talking about everything. And you heard the way he would talk about Kansas, and it's like, it's like, how stupid you want me to be? You can pretend you're stupid, but I'm not that stupid. So it's just like, it's like a funhouse mirror or something when you get out of there and people are like, oh, it's not that bad. He didn't quite say this. It's like, did you listen to this? Like, what are you talking about? So if the NCAA is serious, I think they'll hammer everybody involved, because for pretty much everybody involved, it was really, really clear what was happening. Now, again, how detailed, what's the level of proof in these cases? The argument, there's different legal, if you go to a legal case, I understand this isn't, but, you have preponderance of evidence and things like that, and beyond a reasonable doubt. What college sports administrators and fans want is like, I need a video of coach pulling $100,000 out of an ATM and handing it to the player. If there's not that proof, then we've got nothing. But the beyond reasonable doubt level, which, whatever standard the NCAA goes with, you're just like, yeah, this guy's guilty, that guy's guilty, that guy's guilty. So really it was always a matter to me of how serious the NCAA wanted to take it, because it was all laying there.
This past weekend, Dan, your stomping grounds in Detroit hosted the big sporting event that was going on, which was another PGA Tour stop. This is the Rocket Mortgage. You went out to the course, right?
I did not.
Oh, you didn't go out. You didn't go out.
I did not. I just watched on TV a little bit. Yeah, they had kind of limited media, and you weren't really able to talk to anybody. So
yeah, I wondered how that was working, because even like Balionis on CBS, because even like Balionis on CBS, she's like 10 feet away from the guy, with a mask on, asking him questions, and I'm like, are they allowing anybody? Are they allowing anybody out there? Because I texted you over the weekend about this course, which you were very familiar with, and I thought that you probably have same experience with that place as I do when they have the Memphis stop here, which is you've played it, as I have played the one here, Southwind, many times, and then you watch these guys playing from way further back, the tips, and you watch where their drives land, and it's the most humiliating thing ever. And yet nothing is like what we saw with DeChambeau this weekend, which you kind of wrote about, and you wrote about how this is actually, you took a different angle, which is this is very good for golf, because Donald Ross, who designed this course, like if you hit big, if you're a big hitter, you're hitting in traps on a lot of these holes. It gets narrow. And this dude flew every friggin' trap, right? It was just like he's making a mockery of these courses so far in the 4 times back. So as you, from that perspective of somebody that has played that course a lot, and now you're witnessing what this guy is doing on that course, what was the experience like for you just watching it as a fan this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, you're not playing the same course. I mean, you're like, oh, wait, that's like, you're not even playing the tips, So, if I'm playing a hole that's 410 yards and I can stick a green in 2, I'm jacked. I mean, I'm just not that good of a player and not that long of a player. But I'm gonna be bombing one in from 180 out, 190 out, and I'm not hitting an 8-iron or 9-iron like DeChambeau. So some of these shots were just, I mean, there's one hole, if you watch the thing, where there's rocks and a pond, and when they hit it up next to it, I was like, oh my God, I do know that hole. Like that shot, like normally your second shot you have to hit over the water. You kind of have to, you have to tease the water depending on how good. And he's just, I mean, it's not even the same.
They said on 18.
It's so absurd. It's always, I mean, these guys are obviously so much better than you. You're not really playing the same sport. It's like I can go shoot baskets and then Zion Williamson can shoot baskets. But it's almost like that. It's just like, what is that? Like, this is crazy. But I think DeChambeau is fascinating right now. And I love that he's not a bit of a villain. He's easy to hate. Like, I mean, he's easy to dislike. And he is moody and ridiculous right now. And we got plenty of polite, nice guys. Like, you want nice guys? We got tons of nice guys on the tour. Go root for Jordan Spieth. Okay? Nice guy. But you want someone to hate? Here we go. Look at this guy.
Oh, no. It's like the Reed thing. Patrick Reed obviously is well-hated, too. I freely admit, I love to hate him. Like, I do. I wanted him to collapse down the stretch. But you need these kind of guys in individual sports. So I am the guy. I think he's a nerd who then, like, decided, like, it's almost like an 80s movie. Like, the nerd that got called out for playing slow, for, he wears a stupid hat. Koepka's like, Koepka confronts him. Then he says, something, and then Koepka gets up in his face, and then the nerd goes, oh, yeah? And then he just starts drinking 1,000 protein shakes and bulks up to 700 pounds. And now he's, like, walking through, like, you got something to say to me? No? I mean, it is. But to your point about, like, playing a different sport, bro, he's not playing the same sport as the PGA players, because they said, I think he had like 90 yards, something like that, on 18, right, going into the green. He hit a wedge going into the green, right? I read yesterday Kevin Kisner got third. His average shot to the green on 18, his second shot, was like 173 yards. For the week.
Yeah.
For the week. 100.
That 18th hole, that's a hard hole, because there's this water that runs along the side. It's just like, he averaged 350. He had 16 drives over 350. He hit a 376er. On that hole on 18 on Sunday, he's leading by 3 strokes, and it's 18. Like, just, you could take a 5-iron and just knock it, just play for par or bogey. He steps on the pedal.
Yeah.
And hits a 366 just because he wants to.
Outrageous.
He on 13, I think on Sunday, he waited for the green to clear and tried to hit a 399-yard green. Like, he tried to do it. He didn't reach, but it's like, what is he doing? He had the honors. He gives it up, and you're like, oh my God, he's going for this thing.
No,
like,
who was that? Was it Ryan Armour? I think it was Ryan Armour. I think that's who it was. Whoever it was. That? He told him, you go ahead and hit first.
Yeah, you go.
Oh, dude. No.
It's kind of arrogant.
Yeah, I know, but you can't, like, dude. But I actually don't. Obviously, it's a douchey move. But I blame Ryan Armour. I'd be like, dude, no. You hit. Like, shut up. You're not going to hit the friggin' green.
This has been the best of the Chris Vernon Show, presented by Direct Auto Insurance. Tune in to the live show daily at noon or on demand by heading over to grindcitymedia.com or Grind City Media on YouTube.